Heather Clark, how the heck are you?
I'm doing awesome. It is summertime. It is warm. I love it. So, yes.
Warm as opposed to hot.
Well, actually, warm and hot. I like the heat. I don't know how I became a Canadian, born and raised, but I love the heat. Love it, love it, love it. My body does not like the cold. Literally, my body does not like the cold. I get Raynaud's. So,
Me too.
yes.
I get the Reynaud just from holding a cold drink.
Oh, I'm not that bad but yeah, my hands and my feet are constantly cold. Like there is just my body has just decided that, you know what? You don't need blood to them.
Yeah, because the pain that comes with it is just god awful. Anyway, yeah, I don't do the hot or the cold. I'm kind of like the middle ground person. I kind of like 60s, low 70s. Otherwise, my body revolts. Because with the I think that the MS doesn't do so well with the cold, and the Ehlers-Danlos doesn't do so well with the heat, or
So
vice
you're
versa.
just like,
I
what's
can't
going on?
I can't win at the extremes. I need to be right in that middle ground. Probably why I went for Buddhism. That middle ground is my sweet spot.
There you go. Perfect. It's always
Yeah.
good to be very middle ground.
Oh yeah, because the extremes, I don't know about Canada, but the extremes are really tearing the US apart. But we're not going to get into politics because that's a
No,
rabbit
I don't
hole.
talk. I was gonna say I don't talk
Yeah.
politics because I don't know enough about them. So yes.
It's been, I think you'd mentioned since about 2018 or longer since we talked last.
Yep.
So I have no idea what the heck is going on with your life.
Um, a whole lot since then, if we're really going to be honest.
Well, let's circle back to why we're talking even. You had responded, you commented on one of my posts, and I can't remember what the post was.
I actually have
But
it up right now.
oh, awesome.
Yes, it
Remind me.
is. So it says a child who is afraid of their parents' reactions may feel too scared to come to them when they need help.
Right. That
Yes.
reactive parenting, that what were you thinking? Or I told you 1,000 times. And you respond with some kind of anger that makes the
Mhm.
child feel stupid, unloved, rejected in some way. And
Yes.
then you responded,
That I responded that I had actually been the one to break that generational curse. And that was 100% me with my parents. And I started off very much repeating that cycle until actually around like the 2016-17 stage. And I caught myself. And that's when I actually dove right into the self-development online, the like learning more about, okay, this isn't just me dealing with this. Obviously, others beyond me have dealt with this. So how can I? And ever since then and beyond, going through family court twice in the, actually once since 2018, since we talked, but twice in my entire lifetime. And in that, taking actually what do they call it? I forget what it's actually called, but it's a parenting course. I took two parenting courses in between that because I'm like, listen, I can't do to my children what was done to me. Like I just can't. Like I literally could not fathom raising children the way I was raised. Now, of course, do I hate my family, like my parents and stuff like that, for the way they raised me? No, because they were only doing the best that they can with what they had and how they were raised. And it was generation after generation. And I'm learning more things as I'm talking to like people in the family, like, what's that? I'm like, oh, it's all making sense now. And I remember one day gardening with my one aunt and saying to her, like, no, like, I'm here to break those generational curses. I don't know why I have such a like feeling of that. I said, I just know I'm here to do it. And I know I already have. Like, I can see it in my kids with the way that they, like, first of all, they can run down my hallway in the house without worrying about making like the biggest noise possible. That alone is a, like, has been broken because I remember tiptoeing and still making too much noise.
so you're letting them be kids.
What was that? Sorry?
You're letting them be kids.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Like,
Like letting them be kids to a point. There are certain times where they're so loud that I'm like, okay, can we just dial it down a little bit?
There has to be room for some kind of feedback.
Yes.
Kiddos, I have a threshold, and that threshold is being reached now.
Yeah. No, I always warn them like when I know like, and the other thing is too, I also communicate when I know that I'm at my wit's end. I'm like, guys, I'm warning you now. She-Hulk may come out in about 10 more minutes if you continue this way. And I usually say
I
She-Hulk.
gotta see that.
No, we don't want to see that.
Well,
We
I don't
saw
want to be
the
on the
kids had
receiving end of it.
but yeah, so like there's a warning, and I think that's the biggest thing is the communication that I've been able to have with them and just saying like, listen. And also if it does happen, because let's be honest, we're not perfect, we're never going to be perfect parents or anything like that. If it does happen, I have enough knowledge to know that I go to them and I say, listen, I'm sorry that I reacted that way. I did give you a warning, but let's moving forward do this. And just being able to have that communication with the kids has opened them up to tell me things that I'm like, there are things I didn't even know I would need to know.
Well, our parents did not model that repair.
Yep.
They didn't come back later and apologize. With my mother, it was, well, you know that when you do that, it gets me mad. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm the cause. The effect is also my responsibility. I did this, you got that. That's really laying the foundation for codependence, which I had with my mother well into my adulthood until I figured out what was going on. And one thing you mentioned that is so essential to all of this is the self-awareness piece,
Oh yeah.
the willingness to look at yourself and
Yep.
realize I can do something with this. I can do something about this.
Yep.
I'm not just stuck with it. It's not how I was raised. It's not just who I am. This stuff is flexible. This stuff doesn't belong to me. It's stuff that's piled on all these years. And what you mentioned about the kids running down the halls, my dad, who told countless stories about the abusive environment he was raised in, and
Mm-hmm.
his father was so over the top that when he'd come home from work, if the kids made a peep, he would beat them.
Yep.
I don't mean a swat on the butt. He would beat them for not being quiet. And my dad, for the entire time that I knew him, was like a ninja. He'd come in and out of the room. You wouldn't know he was there. Suddenly
Mm-hmm.
you'd look and where'd dad go? Dad was
Yep.
gone. And
Yep.
to this day, the man barely makes a peep. You can't have a conversation with him to save your life.
Well, and it's so funny. So on that topic too, my kids, first of all, they get scared because I'm so quiet coming into a room, or I'm so quiet opening a door. I'm so quiet doing that because it doesn't stop. But the other thing is too, they've made very much comments over and over again. If I'm sleeping and I know that a child, now maybe this is just the mum in me, knowing like, you're still attached to the children, you know their moves and stuff. But my son can just be at the door. And I'm like, yes, what would you like? And he's like, how did you even know I was here? And like, we're talking like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, I was dead asleep. I just, either something in me, like I said, it could just be the mom thing, or it could be the hyper sensitivity to, okay, there's somebody at my door. Like,
Yeah, my understanding is that the mom hypervigilance is like the mom hearing.
yes, exactly. Oh, yeah. My
We
kids are
know
like,
something's going
how
on. I
did
need
you
to know right
hear
now.
that? Yes.
It's that superpower. It's activated with the estrogen or
Yep.
whatever else happens upon birth. It's the oxytocin. When you're within 1,000-mile range, I know what's going on with you. It's just the way we're
Or
wired.
for me, it's, I was your age once. I know what you're doing.
Oh, that's right. There's that hint of familiarity.
Yes.
I sense mischievousness within my whatever it is. I just know it's
It's so
happening.
funny. I want to say it was my daughter was behind me. And of course, the facial expressions she makes, whatever. And I'm like, I can't see her. I'm like, stop doing that. I don't want to see that. Enough with that. And she's like, looking at her brother, like, wow. And he's like, don't question it. Just don't question it. It just
Never
happens.
done that.
Yes. Oh yeah, because he's the older one. So he's already been like, there's times where I'm like, I'm just listening to the instincts and I'm like, oh, turn left. And I turned left and I found him because we were in a tiff that day. We're gonna call it a tiff. And yeah, and I just like got in the car, went, certain direction. And then I was like, yep. And then the look on his face was priceless. I wish I had videoed it because he's like, how did you find me? And then, oh crap, I'm in trouble. Oh crap. And I just brought him in the car, whatever. And I said, we'll talk about this in the morning. And that was it. And he was just like, what? Because I knew I was not in a space to talk about it right then and there. Because clearly we were both in like, that fighting mode. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to say anything that I'm going to regret. You're not going to say anything that you're going to regret. We're going to talk about this in the morning. Now, mind you, I'm sure it made him anxious and didn't have a good sleep, which I'm okay with actually at this point.
Imagine if you had reacted in that moment.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
much differently it could have gone. I mean, even, yeah, I see that he would be, fretting that whole time, but man, more damage would have been done if you'd have torn into him.
Yep.
And I get the sense that you grew up with that like I did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All reactivity all the time. You didn't know when the temper was going to blow. And I'll tell you, when my mom unleashed, she didn't care how bad she made you feel.
Mm-mm. Oh, absolutely not. Like that, it was just a do it. And the thing is, it was only in private because in front of people, oh, they were the perfect one.
Oh my God. Yeah, everybody loved her. All the friends called her mom. She was like her mother and typically had, some fresh cookies that she'd baked or something. Everybody loved her. And then when I try to explain, you
Yeah,
never
you look like the
saw
crazy one. Yeah.
you never saw this other side. It was the same with my siblings. They were merciless in their verbal abuse, saying things to emasculate me and then laughing about it. And occasionally my father would join in because that's how him and his brothers talk.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to say for the record, I don't think my siblings or my parents were bad people. Very, very wounded.
Yes. And
For
that's it. And
sure.
that's like a lot of people are like, oh, well, how are you not mad? How have you forgiven? And I was like, because
Perspective.
I was like, when you do the inner work, like I said, the online space has allowed me to do the inner work. Because if it wasn't for that, I probably would still be the way I was. And it allowed me to do the inner work. So when you start to do the inner work for yourself, you start to go, oh, wait a sec. And then not only that, but reading. So there was a book, I forget what the book is, but I'll give it to you. I'll research it and afterwards. But I think it's It Didn't Start With Me, I think is the title of it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a really good book and recommend anyone to read it because it talks about generational things. Like literally this didn't start with you. This is a memory from a great, great, great grandparent passed down through the bloodline to whoever decides to break that generational
One of
trauma.
the things that they're finding a lot in research, and I don't pretend to understand all of it, but how sustained emotional states or sustained release of stress hormones influence which genes are activated and which genes get passed forward. So intergenerational trauma can be partially genetic, meaning that the way you are wired to respond to stress is related to which genes are activated. I think I kind of got that.
Yep. Well, and especially if we're going to say this, especially on the mom side, because our grandmother carried us, our egg, in with her because when she was pregnant with our mom had the eggs already in her. So that stressor was passed down into our egg. And then when we were conceived, and then we had, it's such a 3 generations thing.
One thing I've talked about before, though I can't remember where, my mom was stressed out the whole time she was pregnant with me because my brothers were basically Irish twins and were driving her batty. And here she was having another kid when she couldn't control the first two. And she just mentioned this to me off the cuff one day. she said, I'm trying to remember the word she said, but all I could think about was how I didn't want to have another kid. So somehow that got to me in utero, and I spent my life thinking that I was not wanted in my family.
Same here. It's like we were meant to have this conversation.
That's
Yep.
why I kind of have that vibe about people,
Yep.
but I'm also so super sensitive, sensorily, emotionally. I've got off the charts empathy, and maybe I'm making a false connection here, but I can't help but think it was because of my mom's hypervigilance when I was in utero, her anxiety, because when I was born, and she had to carry me everywhere. She had to carry me on her when she did the chores in the house, when she left the house, otherwise I would scream.
Yep. That was my son actually. You know what? I didn't actually mind carrying him because it was my first child, so I didn't know any better. So
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, okay. I'm like, I got stuff to do. So you're gonna come in this carrier, and I got vacuuming to do. I've got cleaning to do, and yeah, he was fine with that. Meanwhile, my daughter, totally different child. Like when I say my son and my daughter are polar opposites, they are polar opposites in the zodiac signs. They're polar opposites in gender. They're polar opposites. Like they're just, it's the funniest thing. So when she gave me, like he was a wake up every 2 hours kind of child. So I was like, all right, I'm going to bed with you. I wake up, feed you, do whatever, etc. And then my daughter in the hospital was giving me like 3 hours sleep straight from like day one. And I'm like, are you alive? Are you okay? No, you're good. I guess I should sleep. Okay. So I'd wake and then I'd wake up in a panic, like, oh my God, is she okay? But yeah, it's the same thing. Like I had to carry him. So with him, he's probably become more attached to me. Not saying that my daughter isn't attached to me, but because I carried him, because he was with me for the first at least well, maybe not 6 months because you got heavy after about five. But yeah, like he was just always with me because I just had to get things done.
Do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do.
And one thing is that I'm curious about, you said if it wasn't for the online space,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have been able to do the work. Now, this is, I want to hear more about that because there are some people that blame the online space for increased toxicity and negative thinking. Well, the reality is people are drawn to what they're familiar with and what they want to see.
Your
So people
algorithm
that
is
think,
algorithming.
yeah, people that tend to be negative and pessimistic are going to click on those things that are in alignment with that. But once you decide you want to change the way you're thinking, you are going to spot the things that are at least one step different from what you're
Yeah.
currently thinking and one step in the direction of how you
Yep.
want to think instead. So what was your experience?
So my family is very science based. If they can't see it, they don't believe it. If it's not in front of them, they don't believe it. They're very book based people. So in the online space, I was finding more of the spiritual part of it as well, which I was clearly attracted to, but I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, no, that's just fallacy. Like, universe, this, that, whatever. You are what you think, this, that. Totally was just like very technical, very matter of fact. But that's because of my upbringing. My upbringing was very matter of fact. Matter of fact, you do this. You matter of fact, this is what it is. Like to believe in God no longer existed after I was 14, after big, huge thing in the family, whatever, that I was like, you know what? I don't feel it. I don't feel that. Like I don't resonate with that. And I grew up in Catholic schools and Catholic this, whatever.
Me too.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, my great uncle was a priest type thing. Like these are the things where I'm like, all right, cool. But then when I was about 14, I was like, okay, I knew there was just something. I was like, this just isn't feeling whatever. So I didn't go to a Catholic high school. I went just to a public school. And again, it was still matter of fact. It wasn't until after my divorce, when I was probably in my early 30s, that if we're going to talk about like divine stuff, like I was already in the online space and I was learning and people were saying like certain things, but it wasn't until I experienced a more or less slap in the back of the head, like, hi, pay attention, was dimes. I don't know if people have ever had experience with dimes and finding dimes, and dimes are like, signs of a loved one. So throughout a matter of, I think it was like, at least when I started paying attention, let's just say that there was probably a whole bunch of dimes before that I didn't pay attention to. But when I started paying attention to them, there's about 84 dimes that I collected in a matter of like 5-6 months. Oh yeah. And we're talking, let's just say this. We're talking, they're not just dimes that, oh, a whole bunch of change and there's a dime there. Oh, I noticed a dime. No, we're talking, I used to have a cleaning business where I would help clean empty houses, like completely empty, no furniture, no nothing, no whatever. I'd open a cupboard to clean the inside of the cupboard and there was a dime. I go to vacuum another house, whatever,
Pretty
and totally
random.
different house. Oh, random. And that's where I was like, okay, because I was such a matter-of-fact person, it needed to be so out of the ordinary random that I would pay attention. So I started paying attention.
Finding it in the parking lot is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
People pulling their keys out of their pocket and time comes out.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like these were the most absolute random places. There was actually even a time I started taking pictures of it because I was like, no, nobody's going to believe me. Like, absolutely not. So I started taking pictures. So I was like, because I was still new to the online, like the, spiritual side, the online, like, okay, I see a lot of like, self-development, all that stuff. And they very, look for the signs. I was like, all right, cool. So I tested it one day and I was like, okay, if I should do this, give me a dime in the next 24 hours. Never got a dime. I'm like, fine. So the next day I was like, if I shouldn't do this, give me a dime. And then so it didn't. And I was like, see, doesn't work. So because I was very like, well, doesn't my daughter come out of school? And she's like kindergarten. So she's itty bitty. She's only like 4 or 5 years old, not understanding. And she goes, oh, Mom, I was supposed to give you this, and hands me a dime. And that was the day that I was like,
was supposed to give you this.
Yeah.
Is it typical that when she finds loose change, she comes to you with it?
There's no other. No. That was the moment that I literally was like, okay.
You're a witch and you can stay in Canada?
But witches are good. I like witches.
No, my wife has a thing with hoarders and her late grandfather.
Did you say hoarders?
Hoarders.
Oh,
25 cent,
gotcha.
25-cent piece.
Sorry, my brain went to hoarders because of my business. I was like, wait, what?
My mother was the hoarder. Maybe that's where you're getting that from. I don't know. But one thing that, now, what I just kind of tangented a few times in my head. Two things I'm curious about. In the online space, was it like those little hints here and there? Mm-hmm. Or were there like Facebook groups or something?
It was me dabbling in groups. Like there wasn't one in particular. It was me getting all of the information and seeing what every type of group. So I'd be in like a business one. I would be like, I was going to say, I think we remember Screw the 9 to 5 with Jill and Josh.
We were in a business membership together. Yeah.
So I was in that, and then learning that there was people, I was like, okay. So then I followed that person. Then I started following, this person and all that stuff. And it was combined to, I'd also go on YouTube and I'd find like different people that I'd follow. That just
is a gold mine.
It is huge gold mine.
People that go there, my sons in particular, who watch these guys that are re-recording dialogue to anime and making it childish, like teenage humor. And I remind them, there are other things on YouTube you could be watching right now.
Oh, yes. My children, their ridiculousness. The one thing that my daughter has, like her algorithm is cats. Cats, and all cats. Yeah, it's the funniest thing. But yeah, and that's the thing.
Because all three of my boys have autism and ADHD. So they go to where the dopamine is, right? All that really exciting things. My oldest boy, and our kids are late bloomers when they have these challenges. So my oldest boy is 26, and he's really starting to get the idea that he needs to work on himself, which is encouraging. Because I can tell my boys until I'm blue in the face about all the different things that are important to know as far as self-awareness. They don't care.
Nope.
So, I mean, regardless of how much I know, I've written 5 books, however, My own kids will listen to me. That's kind of, hard for the
You're like, but
course.
I've got it in a
Yeah.
book.
But there are times when they come to me and ask questions. So plant the seeds, because that works far more effectively than lecture. Kind of like you pointed out with going online. Here, a little bit there, and people
Yep.
presenting ideas. You didn't think of it that way before.
Oh, absolutely. And
And
then
that's
the
some
kids
of the best
watch you.
things. Mhm.
The kids watch you. Like there's so many times where like I know just based on what my child has said, whether it's my daughter or my son, and just what and I'm like, ooh, I'm like, okay, you've been watching me because I don't remember telling you that. I was like, all right, cool. And they've seen me in the online space. They've seen me with the Jill and Joshes and stuff like that of the, the online space. And they're little entrepreneurs now too. So it's like, my
That
daughter
is
today
cool.
is selling lemonade with her friend and cookies and stuff like that and has done it. This is now the fifth day or fourth day that she's done it just this past like week and a half. So like, oh yeah. So
It's
they
really
watch
awesome.
us. Yeah, they watch us just like when they, watch their algorithm. When you watch it and you continue and you watch it for a certain time, like the algorithm is there to base it around you. So if you continue to watch those, the news or the negative stuff, whatever, your feed's going to continue that. That's what they do. Or you go into the inspirational stuff, you'll like it, you interact, you comment. Well, your algorithm's going to continue with that. And eventually you start to go, hey, wait a second. Oh, I want more of that. Oh, I want more of that. And that's what you think about. Just like what is the thing that they say? Oh, think about a red car. When you're driving, all you're going to see is red cars. Did you notice the blue one? Did you notice the green one? Did you notice the yellow one? No, because you were focused on the red.
I just had kind of that your feed will show you who you are.
Yep.
And I'm going to post about that, and people are going to be very unhappy with me, but
Right.
such is the
But
case, right?
no. But see, here's what the thing is: the people should be unhappy with themselves. They need to take this self
Ideally,
accountability.
but
Yeah.
we are. I don't see them as much anymore, but we are the era of trigger warnings,
Oh gosh. Yes.
where we were responsible for how other people felt
Yep.
because we didn't warn them. Don't get me started on that.
Well, and
One
that's the
of
thing.
the
Like, so the self development is also like, being told over and over again. Like, if you have a trigger to something, that's on you. That's not on the person that said it. Like, I have lost a friendship because of the fact that they're like, oh, well, I didn't like what you said. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's not on me, though. Well, we need to have a conversation. I said, no. We don't need a conversation because I am who I am. You are who you are. If we've gotten to a point in our friendship that we're doing this, I'm okay with that. And you need to be okay with that. And so, yeah, so that's what ended up happening because I was like, I'm not going to adjust me to make you happy and comfortable in what I say, and vice versa. I don't expect you to make me feel comfortable by hiding what you need to say. I said, you didn't, well, I didn't. And clearly, goodbye. And that's what ended up basically happening. It was just a quick, and we were friends for years upon years upon years. And that's just how it is. It's just like relationships as well. Like there's certain points where if one's growing and the other is not, they grow apart.
Oh yeah, that happened with my first marriage,
Yep.
and yet that was kind of a wreck. That is all too common,
Yep.
not only in romantic relationships, friendships. I don't talk to my siblings. We've got absolutely nothing in common, even though we could get together every weekend if we wanted to.
Yep. And that's it. Like
Hmm.
that's the thing. Like it's just when you are the person, whether it's you, whether it's the person listening or whatever, if you're the person that is working on yourself, that is becoming very self-aware of what you say, what you do, how you do it, how your energy is, because what you put out, you get back. That's something I learned way too many times. And once you get that, it's like people are afraid of losing those relationships, are afraid of losing those friendships. But no, you need to let go of those. And this is part of even my business. You need to let go of those to allow the ones to come in that are more aligned, that do understand that, hey, yeah, my algorithm is my algorithm because of me. my algorithm isn't because of, TikTok or Facebook and they changed it all of a sudden. Now this is why I have this. No, 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 no. It's very methodical where like what they do on the back end of all of these devices. And so, yeah, so when you become self-aware, you understand that, people have to go to let the right ones in.
I just want to piggyback on that. People don't realize that what you give your time and attention to affects your energy.
Mhm.
So if you are trying to hang on to people that drain you, you
Yes,
will stay far too much in that mental and emotional space to maintain the connection with that person.
absolutely.
But when you say, I'm no longer going to live that way and be that way, instead, I'm going to focus on who I want to be more, suddenly you're showing up more that way. People see it and say, ooh, that person's one of mine.
Yes. Yep.
I want to get to know this person. So
Yep.
it's nothing that is, ethereal. It's very human.
Yep. Yeah. When we remove the mask that we've been putting on, because I know I had a mask on because of the way I was raised, because the way I was told how to be, that I need to
Oh,
get
you
a
can't be
job, that
who
I
you
need to,
are.
yeah, you can't be that, that hyper child. You can't be that hyper person. And then when you finally move the mask and I finally go, okay, when you lose everybody that, you had type thing and you gotta go into yourself and you're like, huh, I like that me though. Like that is me. That is who I am. And then when you portray it to the world, oh, you find more me's. Like you find more people like you that
A
are
lot of
okay with
me.
it. Yes.
The people that we're raised with are so critical and judgmental when you try and step outside of that.
Yep.
Because, in my household, it was all about knocking people down, one-upping them, always kind of being a little bit ahead, making sure people were off balance. So there was constant insults and questioning. We weren't even allowed to make mistakes in my house without someone saying, saw that.
Yeah.
And
And it's
now
so
look,
like it's great that it built you into who you are, but like can you imagine if you didn't have to deal with that, how much quicker who you are would have actually become?
ooh, I would have been who I am decades ago
Yeah.
if I didn't have to work through those layers of trauma.
Yep.
Some of which I was still working through at the end of COVID. Some of the big ones really got brought to the surface when I was suddenly locked in the home with my family and nowhere to go.
Yep. Oh, a lot of, trust me, the COVID caused a lot of people like, well, look, I can't even say that. The divorce rate alone, when you're stuck with the actual person you married, and people are like, oh, I don't actually like you. I don't actually want this. And yeah, so like family court was like backed up beyond belief. I was like, oh my people.
There were screaming matches in my house,
Yep.
some of which got very personal and very ugly. And it turned out when we did the repair work, a lot of it was projection,
Yep.
old stuff that got brought to the surface.
100%.
Man, well, we got to talk again because I know we just scratched the surface.
Oh, we absolutely we just did like a little like on a meter stick,
Wow,
we did like a millimeter.
this was kind of like the warm up lap for NASCAR. We're just kind of driving around and getting the track a little
Just
warm, and
getting back, it's been a while.
no kid. Well, thank goodness we got to grease the wheels here, and I'm glad we did catch up. This has been marvelous.
Yes, this has been awesome. Thank you. And then again, it's when you let go and you allow the people in, I was like, I just commented, I was like, I said exactly what I needed to say that day. And you're like, yeah, come
Yeah.
on.
Simpatico. We're on the same page. We must talk. All right. Well, I'm sure you've got an amazing day ahead of you, so I'll let you go. And thank you again, Heather. You're amazing.
Thank you. And as are you, sir. I absolutely appreciate your energy and what you bring to the world. So don't ever let anyone dim your light.
Well, since you've held the bar so high, I won't.
All right, perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.